thanks so much again for joining me this morning, talking with the filmmakers and cast of the movie Poser. So I know who you guys are. Would you mind doing a quick name slate for the fans at home, your future fans, who you are and your role in the movie?
Sure. My name is Noah Dixon. I am the co-director and co-editor of Poser.
Ori Segev, also the co-director and co-editor of Poser.
And I'm Sylvie Mix, and I play Lennon in Poser.
Right on. It is so cool to meet you guys. So the movie just premiered at Tribeca Film Festival. Can you tell me what that was like? This is your directorial debut, the both of you guys. And I'm just, I know that must have been such a cool feeling to premiere the film after such a hard time, making it. What was that like specifically in this year with the virtual film fest part of it all? We're just getting through quarantine. But yeah, how's this whole journey been for you with Tribeca?
Oh, it's been unbelievable, a little like unreal at times, just like being here. A lot of the crew, we're all staying at this Airbnb together and we're just, having a great time. And the premiere, it's one of the first times where we've actually watched it with a group. And to get to do that after, this entire year has been just like a magical experience. It's been great.
Definitely nerve-wracking a little bit. This was like most of our first time making a movie and putting something out there. So it's all new to us, but very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the day was a whirlwind. Lots of nerves, and but it was really cool getting to watch it on a giant screen and in a cool location and with a bunch of people.
Right on.
Yeah, there might have been some pacing around the Airbnb that morning,
Definitely. Have you guys had a chance to now enjoy the moment after the screening? I mean, I can only imagine that people are having the same reaction as I did, which is I loved the movie. I'm still making my way through Tribeca Film Festival with other films, but this has been such a standout. I mean, how have the reactions been from people that you've heard, even friends or people that have made the movie? What have those reactions been like to hear?
I mean, it's been unreal. I mean, from what it seems like, everything's been positive. All of our, it was a tight-knit crew that made the movie, and all of our, all the bands are real bands, and everyone finally got to see it even online. And just the inbox of everybody just messaging us how excited they were, and having these little watch parties like around the country has been it's been unreal.
I would say, honestly, for me, the coolest part has been getting messages and calls from people in Columbus who knew that we were making this, but I think didn't realize that it was gonna be a real movie.
Yeah.
So it's cool. We have something really cool to show for it, and people are proud.
Yeah, right on. I feel like the reaction that I've heard from the Columbus scene, just in my own Instagram tagging of the movie, there was someone who had commented who said that they were from Columbus and said that this movie totally captured the indie music scene, which, I feel like that's a good stamp of approval that you guys did it right. You got the sign off from the Columbus native and local. So yeah, can you talk about bringing that indie music scene, the underground music scene, to the film? I imagine it's something that all three of you as filmmakers and artists have been must have been familiar with, because it was captured in such an authentic way. That really was one of my favorite parts of the movie, was the discovery of so many different bands, so many eclectic bands. And what was your familiarity with that world before this movie?
Yeah, I mean, really, that was our goal with the film, was to have people discover new music. And I think that's what got us excited. Ori and I went to school together and moved to Columbus right after, and kind of got our start as filmmakers by working on music videos and music documentaries, and really kind of immersed ourselves in the arts and music scene in Columbus. So it was something that we were really familiar with, met a lot of great musicians and great artists and really great locations. So really, when we were thinking of our first film to do, it just felt like it made sense to build a narrative in that world, because we had such great access and to that music and those people and those locations So that was definitely the foundation before we even knew what the story would be. We just knew we wanted to center it in that world. And then it all kind of, that was the springboard, and we came up with stuff from there.
Yeah, and we're just so lucky to have like all these amazingly talented friends who, you know, all the bands in the movie are our friends and people that we've worked with on in different ways. And I've always felt like kind of movie characters, like they, you know, they're playing heightened versions of themselves in the film. And so it just felt so cool that we're able to include, you know, all this great music, like a playlist of bands that you've never heard of in one movie. And there's so many other sick Columbus bands that we couldn't fit into the film that we wish we could have, you know, but you know, it's a great music scene and something that we felt like we wanted to make while we were still kind of in the scene. Like we didn't want this to be a movie that we made, you know, in our late 40s, like looking back at the good times that we had. We wanted this to be a film that, you know, we made while we were still part of it.
And as for me, I mean, I was born and raised in Columbus, so, and when I was a kid, my mom was going to CCAD, the like main art school there, and so I kind of grew up with those weirdos and like that. I don't know, seeing that movie, it's like, it doesn't capture it all, that's for sure, but it definitely captures an essence that I think yeah, is really cool to see brought to life in such a wonderful way.
Yeah, totally. And what I love also about this world that you've captured with the music scene is that it's has such a focus on artists. And I love that with indie and art house filmmakers that especially, you know, young up and coming emerging filmmakers and artists, that there is such a, like, you can tell that they have something to say. They have a voice, and it's like, you know, you guys are making a movie because there's such passion there. And I think that that's really interesting in the movie, how you connect that too, as far as the storyline with artists who have, there are some people that have a voice and have something to say, and then there are some people who don't and who try and copy and, you know, mimic that as well. But it sounds like you guys all have something to say. So this is maybe a broad question, but what do you feel like as artists you are trying to communicate or express, maybe in this movie or in a larger idea? Is there something that you're interested in bringing to the screen, or just in different pieces of art as well?
It might be a little different for both of us. I think for me, what I kind of like channeled into this film was these both at times feeling like Sylvie's character Lennon in my 20s and being a young artist and trying to find my voice, and at times maybe not feeling kind of like imposter syndrome kind of things, but also feeling like Bobbi's character, kind of both capturing both of those feelings as an artist. And I think being young and navigating your own creative identity is just kind of a roller coaster of a ride that is something that I kind of wanted to put in this film, and really something that Sylvie brought to such a bigger level with her involvement as that character and what she brought to the character. But I think at a core that's kind of the creative identity aspect is kind of something that I wanted to ring through the film.
Yeah, and we had interviewed like so many bands. We've done music documentary and music videos, and you know, it's really hard to describe yourself as an artist. Like, I don't even know if I could do that right now still. And I think that's, like Noah's saying, it's like kind of the essence with this film. And then I think just something that I've sort of been like, as we were shooting this, it's, you know, sometimes you come up with this imagery and different things, and you might have your own idea of what that means as you're doing it, but other people see it differently when they watch it. And I think that what's been really, really cool about this whole process is hearing people, you know, get something little out of something, you know, that's different than what maybe we intended. Or sometimes I don't even want to intend anything. I just kind of come up with something that I think would look visually cool, and it ends up having a lot more meaning to people. You know, the amount of people that messaged us about how they like folded over chips, they were like, you know, real talk. Like,
yeah, that was deep.
You know,
that was
it's not the same. Like, I just thought that was really funny that like people connected with that.
Yeah, I think for me, for this film specifically, I mean, all of it was brand new to me, the process, the community. Yeah, it was totally new, but I think for me, I was really just trying to bring a level of humanity to Lennon's character, because I could relate in so many ways. Just feeling like you can never fully fit your way in, and also this sort of trying to find this balance of like taking yourself seriously enough to put yourself out into the world, but also not seriously enough to like being able to laugh at yourself. I don't know, there were just trying to capture sort of humanity in the character, but also the absurdity of everything this film explores.
Yeah, and so this, Sylvie, was your first film role in a movie, is that right?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Right on. Well, I mean, the performance is amazing, and just the way that you're so comfortable in front of the camera, and how, you know, there's so much that the audience can read in terms of your character and what you're thinking is like such an accomplishment. So yeah, what was the thinking, you know, when you got cast in the movie, or how did you get cast? I'm curious. And then like, what were those early feelings like? How did you prep for the character? Was it conversations with these filmmakers? Did you do research, anything like that?
Well, I used to never check my email, and then one day I just checked my email randomly and had an email from the producer, Drew Johnson, and didn't know who it was, but he was like, "Hey, found you on Instagram and got your email, and would you want to send in auditions for this thing?" And I was just like, "Why not? What do I have to lose?" And so I did, and then they got back to me, and I ended up shooting this, like, we did like a 12-hour day of shooting and did the teaser for the movie. And I don't know, right away I just felt very I felt like I was already friends with all of them. You know, it was very comfortable and easy and fun. And when they first pitched the movie and the character to me, they were like, "Yeah, I mean, think like Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler." And I was like, "Oh, I get to play a psychopath, sick!" Like, I was super excited for that. But then, yeah, I don't know, it sort of organically developed into, I realized I could relate a lot more than I thought to this character and like her internal struggle. And so I just tried to bring a part of myself to the character, I guess. And it seems to work. Seemed to
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, that's something even that we noticed like day 2 of shooting, that even like a scene that I kind of imagined being like the creepiest thing, the scene of her in the bathroom, like with the video camera and mimicking, you know, Bobbi from the concert. And I was just like, that's just so, like, in my head, it was so creepy. But as soon as we were filming it, we filmed it really early on. I was like, this is like really relatable. And like, I can like imagine doing that on my own, like in a way that I never realized. And that kind of shifted us to really like lean in on that as we were filming the movie, and that sort of humanity that Sylvie brought to the character. Because it's really different. You have these ideas when you're writing, when you're planning, but then when you actually are filming, something magical happens and you got to capture what's really happening. And that sort of like, you know, by like day 2, we realized like, okay, this is what we're leaning in on.
I know that your guys are proud of this movie, as you should be in every frame, but is there anything most specifically that you are so happy that you either captured, you think, super well, or a scene, or we talked about, you know, the lines that all the fans are like starting to like pick up on, like, you know, the folded over chip, like, I love these little takeaways. Is there anything that you're specifically most proud of or want the audiences to like really key into?
I would say the big thing for me, which was new for us, is working with our composers, Adam Roble and Sean Sutta. And they would just, as we were editing, we had the temp music in there, and they would just send us the cues that they were working on, and we'd edit them in. And it just was wild how it brought these scenes to life so much more than even I had imagined. So I would just say their score, you know, their music throughout the film even in juxtaposition with all the band music, but just really got me excited. It was like honestly one of my favorite parts of working on the film was just plugging in those cues.
Yeah, and specifically, I mean, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Lennon is snooping around Bobbi's apartment, and that score to that scene, and she's, you know, kind of violating Bobbi's space, but it's also just, you know, she's just curious, and like, I don't know, it's one of my favorite scenes because it's such a simple thing, but the music just heightens that drama in that scene. So I'm especially proud of that one.
I think for me, which it actually didn't end up being that long in the movie after editing, but one of the most like satisfying scenes to act out was Lennon's breakdown, where she just is like crying and screaming on the bed. I mean, filming that was such an ordeal, I feel like, compared to some of the other shots. And I don't know, had to like actually get worked up for it, and it just felt kind of emotionally fulfilling and like, fuck yeah, I did that. But it didn't end up being the whole thing the whole scene in the movie, but it was.
I remember when we shot that, just like feeling really sad. I just didn't, it made me sad to see you like crying and like screaming into the pillow. And I think even we weren't even planning, we originally had like, we're planning on like cutting to the phone and like hearing screaming in the background, because we just didn't know, because it was Sylvie's first time acting. Like we just didn't know whether she'd be able to like cry and scream on camera and like bring it to that level. So when we shot that, I just remember being like really shocked and also like feeling really sorry for him. I was like, "Are you okay?"
I just remember coming down after that. Yeah. Like the crew had been watching it on the monitor downstairs, and I had a few comments just like, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm great. I feel good.
That was really fun to do.
I have one more question, and it's kind of, I wanted to make this a good final question to, you know, let you guys answer. And it's a quote that I actually love, and I'm curious how people respond to it. This quote, it says that artists are people who are simultaneously compelled to hide and reveal themselves in their work, which I've always thought was really interesting, because like we want to express ourselves in our work, but we also like want to hide. And I feel like that relates to this movie as well. So more so, how would you respond like to that thought? Is that something that you guys feel is something that you either is like true or false, or, you know, I'm just curious as to how your take as to hiding yourself in a film and revealing at the same time works. I mean, whoever has the first answer can go.
I definitely agree with it. I mean, I think to even go off of what Ori was saying, and I think as we've become friends with Sylvie, I think there's like a lot of vulnerability with the people, the cast and the crew that we work with, and a lot of just really talented artists, but also just like comfortability talking to each other, but also like talking about our own insecurities and things that we get afraid of to put out there, which is really kind of, again, at a lot of the root of Lennon's character. But I definitely think going on this journey and putting this stuff out there, and, you know, for Sylvie to have her face on the big screen, it's just, there's a lot of vulnerability in that. And it to bring, I think it is, art is something that you want to put out there, but it's also, you kind of want to hide it. You're really kind of being vulnerable in a way. And I think that quote kind of resonates with me in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much of this movie that, even though what we ended up writing is different than what we experienced ourselves. Like there's so many little, like, you know, friends of ours owned a warehouse that, you know, is kind of like the one featured in this, and there's so many things that are just like based on everything that we know, that I feel like it, you know, there's so much of that in this, you know, which is also very fun and rewarding to do, but also, you know, can take a lot out of you of like, you know, how to like think about yourself in a similar situation. But yeah, I definitely respond to that quote.
Yeah, I think in regards to my personal art making, I use it mostly as a coping mechanism. So I think that rings true whether it's intentional or conscious or not. In regards to this film, I think, this character sort of forced me to explore parts of myself that could relate to Lennon, and I think I did end up putting a lot of my own insecurity and my own vulnerability and feelings into the character. And I mean, honestly, I'm pretty introverted in general, so like Noah said, like having my face on the screen and like, it's been weird for sure, but I feel like I still kind of can hide because it's me filling up a character as opposed to being myself on screen. So yeah.
Yeah,
Something that you just made me think of, which might be a better answer than but it's like I've always felt like I look like having some reason to be there, where it's like Lennon with her podcast. It's like, regardless if you're not talking to anybody, you're like looking like, she's just sitting there recording. It's like, I've always felt that, like I always bring a camera like to most things, and like it's kind of a way for me to, if I don't have anything to do, I'll just take pictures, or if I'm feeling uncomfortable, I'll do that. It just gives me like a reason to have something to do that makes me feel like comfortable when I do feel uncomfortable. So I totally like relate with that. And something you said just made me think about that.
Yeah. I would just like to add real quick, because I think they deserve shout outs. The producers on this film made this happen. I mean, the whole crew was incredibly important. Everyone played a huge role. The producers of this film are who made it happen. Brett Ryder, Drew Johnson, Julie Sasaki, and Josh Novak.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I want to give them a shout out because they just
so much of the film that it was just, we could not have done without everybody involved.
Yeah.
Sylvie, do you have anything moving into the next artistic endeavor?
Yeah, actually, so shortly after we filmed Poser, I also filmed I co-wrote a film with my friend Colin West, who
Nice.
Directed this film that we made, Double Walker, and I produced and also act in that. And that is releasing in November. So that's next, but it's finished.
Awesome.
And so other than that, I don't know, just staying open to whatever opportunities show up.
Awesome. Love it. Well, cool. Thanks, guys. I, again, really appreciate talking to you all, meeting you, really. I mean, like, it's, again, I really value like meeting just like new artists with something to say. And the movie is just such an accomplishment. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you
Thank you
for
so much.
watching.
Yeah, it was really fun chatting.